He smashed my daughter's fourth 500th birthday gift. What I did next changed our family forever. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the living room, and in that single second, my daughter's smile disappeared. I can still see her face. She had just turned 10. 10 years old. A child who believed the world was kind. A child who had waited 6 months for that birthday gift. A tablet she had dreamed about, talked about, saved allowance for, and finally received from me as a surprise. And then my father picked it up, looked at me with cold eyes, and threw it against the marble floor. It didn't just break the tablet. It broke something inside my daughter. And something inside me. Let me take you back to where this story really begins. I grew up in a house ruled by fear. My father believed love was weakness. He believed discipline meant control. He believed children should obey, not express. When I was young, I wasn't allowed to dream loudly. I wasn't allowed to question. If I disagreed, I was ungrateful. If I cried, I was dramatic. So I learned to stay quiet. I promised myself one thing when I became a parent. My child would never feel small in her own home. Her name is Alina. She is soft-hearted, curious, and creative. She loves drawing and wants to design video games one day. That tablet wasn't just a toy to her. It was her canvas. Her window to learning, her dream tool. The $4,500 price didn't scare me. Yes, it was expensive. Yes, it took months of extra work. But I didn't buy it to show off. I bought it because I wanted her to feel supported. I wanted her to know her dreams mattered. We were celebrating her birthday at my parents' house. Big mistake. My father has always disliked how I raise my daughter. He calls me soft. Says I'm spoiling her. Says kids these days don't need luxury, they need toughness. When Alina opened the gift, she screamed with joy. She hugged me so tight I almost cried. Everyone clapped. Even my mother smiled nervously. But my father's face hardened. He asked one question. How much? I hesitated. I shouldn't have answered. But I did. When I told him the price, the room went silent. He stood up slowly, walked toward Alina, took the tablet from her hands. She thought he was just looking at it. Then he said, "This is why children grow weak. Because their parents try to buy love." And before I could react, he threw it down. The crash felt louder than thunder. Alina screamed. My mother gasped. I froze. My father looked at me like he had done something heroic. Like he had just taught a lesson. But the only lesson taught that day was how deep pain can cut. Alina ran to her room, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. I followed her. She kept asking, "Why did Grandpa break it? Did I do something wrong?" That question destroyed me. Did I do something wrong? That's what children think when adults fail them. That night, I didn't yell at my father. I didn't fight. I simply packed our things and left. But inside me a storm was building. For days Alina was quiet. She stopped drawing. Stopped talking about her dreams. I noticed something I had never seen before. Doubt. My father didn't just break a device. He planted doubt in a child's heart. I couldn't let that stay. I could have bought another tablet immediately. I had the money. But I realized something deeper needed to happen first. This wasn't about money. This was about respect. About breaking generational patterns. About showing my daughter that no one has the right to crush her dreams. So I made a decision, a public one. My father is a respected man in our community. He prides himself on being strong, wise, and honorable. People admire him. They think he raised me perfectly. They don't know the fear I grew up with. They don't know the silent tears. Our family was hosting a large gathering 2 weeks later. Dozens of relatives. Family friends. People who praise my father endlessly. I was invited. This time, I didn't refuse. I prepared something. On the day of the gathering, Alina held my hand tightly as we walked in. I could feel her nervousness. My father barely looked at us. Halfway through the evening, when everyone was seated, I stood up. My heart was pounding. My palms were sweating. But my voice was calm. I told everyone I wanted to share a small story about parenting. About how every generation faces a choice. We can repeat the pain we experienced, or we can heal it. People nodded politely. Then I described a birthday, a child's excitement, a dream gift. And then I described how it was destroyed. The room grew quiet. I didn't mention my father's name. I didn't need to. Everyone knew. I said something I had held inside for years. Strength is not breaking things. Strength is protecting hearts. My father's face changed. I continued. When a child asks, "Did I do something wrong?" that question stays for life. And we, as adults, are responsible for the answers we create. You could hear a pin drop. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't attacking. I was telling the truth. And truth is louder than anger. Then I did something unexpected. I turned to Alina. I asked her in front of everyone, "Did you do anything wrong?" She looked at me with tears in her eyes and whispered, "No." I said, "You did nothing wrong. Your dreams are not wrong. Wanting tools to grow is not wrong. You deserve support." My mother began crying. Some relatives looked uncomfortable. Others looked ashamed. Finally, I looked at my father. For years, I stayed silent. Because I thought respect meant obedience. But today I learned something. Respect also means protecting my child. There it was. Not revenge with shouting. Not revenge with insults. But truth in daylight. My father stood up. For a moment, I thought he would explode. That he would shout, humiliate me, repeat history. But something surprising happened. He didn't. He sat back down slowly. He said nothing. The gathering ended awkwardly. People left quietly. That night, my father called me. I almost didn't answer. His voice sounded different. Not loud. Not commanding. He said, "I didn't realize she would blame herself." That sentence was small. But it was the first crack in his armor. We talked for hours. For the first time in my life, I told him how I felt growing up. How fear doesn't build strength, it builds distance. He didn't apologize immediately. Men like him don't change overnight. But 2 days later, he came to our house. He brought a box. Inside was the same model tablet. But that wasn't the real surprise. He knelt in front of Alina and said, "I was wrong." I had never heard those words from him before. Never. Alina looked at me unsure. I nodded gently. She accepted it. And in that moment, 3 generations shifted. Revenge doesn't always mean destruction. Sometimes it means exposure. Sometimes it means standing up calmly and breaking cycles. My father still struggles with his pride. He still believes in toughness. But he has softened around Alina. He listens when she talks about her designs. He even asked her to show him how the tablet works. And something healed inside me too. Because the real victory wasn't embarrassing him publicly. It was giving him a chance to see the damage clearly. And giving my daughter proof that her voice matters. If you're listening to this and you grew up in a house where fear was called discipline, remember this. You are not weak for choosing love. You are not wrong for protecting your child's joy. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge is not breaking someone. It's showing them what they broke. And giving them the opportunity to rebuild it. That shattered tablet could have ended our relationship forever. Instead, it became the moment everything changed. And every time I see Alina drawing on her screen, laughing freely, dreaming boldly, I remember that night, the crash, the silence, and the decision to stand up. Because cycles only continue when someone stays quiet. I chose not to stay quiet. And that made all the difference. Years passed after that night. But the sound of breaking glass never truly left me. It became a reminder. Not of anger. Not of humiliation. But of the moment I decided to stop being the silent son. Alina grew quickly. Children always do. One day they are holding your hand tightly, and the next day they are explaining technology to you like you are the child. The tablet that once lay shattered on the marble floor became her constant companion. She designed simple characters at first. Small pixel drawings, funny animals. Little heroes with oversized heads and brave hearts. My father started visiting more often. At first, it was awkward. He would sit stiffly on the couch while Alina showed him her designs. He didn't understand most of it. He would nod too seriously at cartoons and say things like, very technical. But she would giggle and patiently explain every button. I watched him closely. This was a man who never knelt before anyone, never admitted weakness, yet now he would sit quietly for an hour just to understand why a tiny animated dragon needed blue wings instead of red. Healing is slow, but it is real. One afternoon, I overheard something that made me pause in the hallway. Alina said, "Grandpa, do you still think tablets make kids weak?" There was silence. Then he answered softly, "No. I think ignoring children makes them weak." I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. That sentence was worth more than 400, 500. But life doesn't stay calm forever. 2 years later, my father suffered a mild stroke. It wasn't severe, but it shook him. The strong man who once controlled every room now struggled to hold a cup steadily. His speech slowed. His pride cracked again. And I faced a choice. I could keep emotional distance. I could remember every harsh word from my childhood. I could protect myself by staying guarded, or I could do something different. I chose different. We brought him to stay with us during recovery. My mother was exhausted, and truthfully, I wanted Alina to see something important. Forgiveness is not forgetting pain. It is choosing growth over resentment. The first weeks were difficult. He hated needing help. He grew frustrated easily. Sometimes that old sharp tone would return. But something had changed permanently in him. After every moment of impatience, he would catch himself. One evening, while Alina was showing him a new game prototype she created, his hand trembled and he accidentally dropped the tablet. It hit the floor. Time froze. For a split second, all three of us stared at it. The memory of that birthday flashed in my mind. But this time, the tablet didn't shatter. It had a protective case. Just a small scratch. My father looked terrified. Not because of the device, but because of what it represented. "I'm sorry," he whispered immediately. Alina picked it up, checked the screen, then smiled. "It's okay, Grandpa. It's just a thing." Just a thing. I saw tears gather in his eyes. Tears I had never seen in my childhood. He turned away, but we all noticed. That moment healed something deeper than the public confrontation ever could. Months passed. His health improved slowly. He began walking without assistance. His speech returned to normal, but he was not the same man anymore. He was quieter, more reflective. One night, after Alina went to bed, he asked me to sit with him on the balcony. The air was cool. The city lights flickered in the distance. He said, "When I was your age, my father burned my drawings." I looked at him, stunned. "I wanted to be an architect." He continued. "He said art doesn't feed families. So he burned everything." I learned that day that dreams are dangerous. There it was. The root. Generational pain doesn't start with us. It travels through us. "I thought breaking her tablet would make her strong," he said. But I was just repeating what was done to me. For the first time, I didn't see him as the giant of my childhood. I saw a wounded boy who never got defended. And something inside me softened completely. "I forgive you," I said. Not because it erased the past, but because I didn't want to carry it anymore. Years rolled forward again. Alina entered her teenage years. Her talent grew beyond anything I imagined. She began participating in online design competitions. She won small awards, then bigger ones. At 16, she was invited to present her first indie game project at a youth tech conference. The same community hall where I had once stood and spoken about strength. Life has strange circles. The hall was packed. Young creators, families, local media. My father insisted on attending, even though long events tired him. When Alina walked onto the stage, confident and glowing, I felt my chest tighten. She spoke clearly, explained her concept, showed her characters on the big screen. The crowd applauded loudly. Then she said something unexpected. "I want to thank my dad for always believing in me," she said. "And my grandpa, for teaching me that strength means learning from mistakes." The audience turned toward us. My father lowered his head, overwhelmed. After the presentation, people gathered around Alina, praising her talent, asking questions, taking photos. My father stood beside her proudly. Later that night, when we returned home, he said something I will never forget. If I had someone protect my dreams the way you protected hers, my life would have been different. I replied gently. It still changed. You changed it. He passed away peacefully 2 years later. Not suddenly, not with drama. Just quietly. But before he left, he asked Alina to promise something. Never let anyone make you feel small for dreaming, he told her. She promised. At his funeral, many people spoke about his strength, his discipline, his leadership. They remembered the older version of him. But we knew the full story. We knew about the broken tablet. We knew about the balcony confession. We knew about the quiet transformation. Today, Alina is building her own game studio. She mentors younger kids who want to create but feel discouraged. On the wall of her office, she keeps the cracked protective case from that old tablet. Not as a symbol of anger, but as a reminder. Dreams are fragile. Hearts are fragile. And words are powerful. When people ask me how I took revenge on my father for smashing that 500 birthday gift, I smile, because they expect a dramatic answer. They expect lawsuits, public humiliation, permanent separation. But the real revenge was this. I refused to let his pain become my daughter's pain. I refused to pass down fear. I refused to stay silent. And in doing that, I didn't destroy him. I gave him a chance to become someone better before his time ran out. That is the kind of revenge that changes legacies. If you are listening right now and you carry wounds from your childhood, remember this. You can end the cycle. You can choose patience over pride. You can protect dreams even if yours were once crushed. Because strength is not about control. It is about courage. The courage to say, it stops with me. And that decision, that quiet, firm decision, can echo louder than any sound of breaking glass ever could. After my father passed away, the house felt different. Not empty. Just quieter. Grief is strange like that. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just sits beside you in silence, reminding you of conversations you can no longer have. For weeks, I kept replaying memories in my mind. The strict father of my childhood. The angry man who smashed a birthday gift. The older man who knelt and apologized. The grandfather who sat patiently learning how to move a character on a screen. People are complicated. They are never just one moment. One afternoon, while organizing old boxes from my parents' house, my mother handed me something wrapped in a faded cloth. These were his, she said softly. Inside were sketches, architectural drawings, bridges, buildings, houses with detailed balconies and careful shading. The lines were confident, even though the paper had yellowed with time. He never stopped drawing, she whispered. He just stopped showing anyone. My throat tightened. All those years, I thought he had completely buried that part of himself. But he hadn't. He had hidden it. That night, I showed the sketches to Alina. She stared at them with wide eyes. Grandpa drew these, she asked. I nodded. She ran her fingers gently over the pencil lines. They're beautiful. And in that moment, something powerful clicked inside her. Dad, she said. What if I design a game about him? I looked at her, surprised. She continued. About a man who forgot his dreams, and then finds them again through his granddaughter. The idea hit me deep in the chest. Sometimes healing continues even after someone is gone. Over the next year, Alina worked harder than I had ever seen her work before. She poured emotion into that project. She studied architecture basics, so she could recreate her grandfather's style. She scanned his old drawings and turned them into digital environments. Late nights, early mornings, doubt, frustration, breakthroughs. There were moments she wanted to quit. One evening, she closed her laptop and said, "What if no one understands it?" I sat beside her and said something I wish someone had told my father long ago. It doesn't matter if everyone understands it. It matters that it's honest. She nodded slowly. The game was called Foundations. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. It was quiet and emotional. Players guided an older character through rebuilding broken structures while reconnecting with forgotten memories. Each level represented a stage of life. Some bridges were incomplete. Some walls cracked. But with patience, they could be restored. When she released the game online, we didn't expect much. But something unexpected happened. People connected with it. Comments started appearing. This reminds me of my dad. I cried playing level 3. I never thought a game could feel this personal. It spread slowly at first. Then faster. Within months, a small indie gaming blog featured it. Then, a bigger platform picked it up. Interviews followed. Invitations to speak at creative conferences. Her studio began receiving collaboration offers. One night, as we sat together reading messages from players around the world, Alina turned to me and said, "Do you think Grandpa would have liked it?" I smiled gently. "I think he would have been proud," I said. "Not just of the game, but of who you are." She was quiet for a moment. "Dad," she said softly, "are you glad he broke the tablet?" That question surprised me. I thought carefully before answering. "No," I said honestly, "I'm not glad he broke it. It hurt you. And it hurt me." She nodded. "But," I continued, "I'm glad we didn't let that moment define us. I'm glad we chose something better after it." She leaned her head on my shoulder. Life doesn't give us perfect families. It gives us people shaped by their own pain. Some repeat it. Some confront it. Some take years to understand it. But every generation has a choice. A few months later, Alina organized a small exhibition in our city. She displayed her grandfather's original sketches, alongside digital versions she recreated inside her game. On one wall, she placed a short message: "Dreams can be delayed. They can be doubted. They can even be broken. But if one person believes in you, they can live again." People stood in front of those drawings quietly. Some wiped tears. Some took photos. Some simply stared. I stood in the back of the room and felt something I can't fully describe. Not pride. Not victory. Peace. The kind of peace that comes when you know the cycle truly ended. That shattered tablet could have created distance for decades. It could have turned into bitterness. It could have become a story of permanent separation. Instead, it became the beginning of honesty. The beginning of conversations that should have happened years earlier. The beginning of a softer grandfather. The beginning of a daughter who never doubted her worth again. Today, when I look at Alina running her studio, mentoring young creators, encouraging children whose parents don't understand their passions, I see something powerful. She doesn't just build games. She builds safe spaces. And every time a nervous child walks into her workshop and says, "My parents think this is a waste of time," she smiles gently and says, "Dreams are never a waste." That is the real legacy. Not money. Not reputation. Not control. Legacy is what you choose to pass forward. My father passed forward discipline and fear at first. Then, before he left this world, he passed forward humility and change. And I passed forward protection. One evening recently, Alina handed me something small wrapped in paper. Inside was a custom tablet case. On the back, engraved in silver, were 3 words. "It stops here." I felt tears rise instantly. Because that is what this whole story has been about. Not revenge in the way people expect. But a decision. A quiet, powerful decision to end inherited pain. If you're listening to this and you carry scars from your past, know this. You don't have to repeat what hurt you. You don't have to prove strength by breaking someone else. You can choose something different. You can stand in the middle of a painful moment and say, "This is where it changes." And maybe, years later, when someone looks back at your story, they won't remember the crash of something breaking. They'll remember the courage it took to rebuild. Because sometimes, the most powerful families are not the ones without conflict. They are the ones brave enough to transform it. And that is how everything truly changed.